Today, I get the chance to talk with Mike the Marine Richman, who is a professional bare-knuckle fighter. He's fought mixed martial arts. He's fought in the bare-knuckle world. He's currently a fighter in the BKFC. And we get to focus a lot on his bare-knuckle fighting career, some of the venues he's fought at, how he's come back from losses. We talk about his, fight night ritual, like his whole routine that he goes through from the day of the fight and coming out to the ring, how he handles his nerves, the life lessons from fighting that he takes into his regular life, just all the things. I've been wanting to talk with Mike for a long time. I've been a fan of his in the fight game for many, many years, and I love his style of fighting. I just like the way that he conducts himself, and I think that his story is going to be very, very helpful for a lot of you who are tuning into this one. So I hope you guys enjoy this episode of the Gametime Guru. So,
what time is it? Game time! Woo!
This is the Gametime Guru Podcast, where I interview sports figures from all over the world to help deliver a panoramic view on sports. So whether you're a former athlete, one of the crazies, or simply a casual sports fan, this is the perfect show for you as we peel back the curtains and learn from our guests every single week. I'm your host, Shane Larson, and I'm helping you see sports through a different lens. What's up, everybody? Welcome out to another episode of the Gametime Guru Podcast. My name is Shane Larson, host of the show. Excited to be here with you guys for another interview. 9 years running on the podcast. Show's been downloaded in 183 countries in all 50 states. And thanks in large part to everybody out there that has tuned in over the last 9 years. We really appreciate you guys and all the guests that have been on the podcast. Super awesome opportunity for me today. As you guys heard in the introduction, I get a fighter on the show, Mike the Marine Richman, the guy I've been following since his MMA days, now in the bare knuckle world. And I get to pick his brain today and kind of learn from him. So, Mike, thanks for joining the show, sir.
No, yeah, it's dope, man. I appreciate it. I'm glad we finally kind of got it all linked up.
Heck yeah, man. Heck yeah. So Mike, I got a question for you, right? So, we'll kind of dive into this one. I've been interested in the weight classes, right? So early on in your fighting career, in mixed martial arts, you've been all around the weight classes, but you were fighting at a lighter weight. Now you're kind of fighting in the 85, 75s. You kind of fluctuate towards the top end of there. And you've talked about it before in some of your interviews about just some of the big guys, heavy hitters. You don't really want to cut weight. You're getting older. It's harder to cut weight, that type of deal. But talk to us about the differences in weight classes in the sport of fighting, because it's pretty unique that you've been able to fight and compete at a very high level on all of those levels.
Yeah, that's a good question. I take pride in my ability to kind of to do the lower weight classes in MMA, and then obviously the upper echelon of weight classes in bare knuckle. As far as, for me, when it comes to bare knuckle, I feel like, and I've said this in other interviews you might have heard, is like, I don't believe I could compete at a high level at 185 pounds in MMA, or 100, even, 170 would be difficult as well, just because the size and the grappling and all that. But one of the really things that I looked at when it came to bare knuckle is, like I said it many times, it's just two grown men getting in a fist fight, and I'm really good at fist fighting. So I just always thought, especially with, as I've been in the game a long time and starting to get older, cutting that weight. I'm sorry if you can hear sirens outside.
Oh, you're good, man. It's all part of it. It's all good.
Cutting that weight, it wasn't ideal for me. It's something that I didn't want to do, is to cut that weight, way down to the MMA weight for bare knuckle. And I don't know. It's just something, I guess I just figured out, doing bare knuckle at that weight class would be easy.
I love that, though. Two guys in a fist fight, and you're good at fist fighting. That's kind of how it is. Your experience in bare knuckle, I've had a couple of bare knuckle fighters on the show. They've given their insights. I want to know about, you've been in some battles, man, some wars in the BKFC specifically. It's been pretty crazy to watch. Talk to me about the differences, I guess the intricacies of bare knuckle as compared to that of like regular boxing or just MMA. I guess some people would look at it and say, oh, well, 3 2-minute rounds, or in the championship fights, 5 2-minute rounds should be easy. But it seems like it's a bit all out sprint. Every jab seems to cut. Like, it's not like you can't get away with the like in boxing, when we would get jabbed in boxing, you get hit and it's like, whatever, but here it seems like, okay, a jab can actually do some damage. So talk to me about the differences that you've noticed yourself in bare knuckle as compared to the other forms of fighting.
No, yeah, that's a good question, because I feel Bare knuckle, yeah. It's only 2 minute. It's only 2 minute rounds, but every action that you get in it, but most importantly, the close range. That close range in the, like you said, the jab, the uppercuts, all that close range action in bare knuckle. Every shot is much more damaging. Is definitely will have much more effect on your opponent than in glove boxing. Obviously there's some glove boxing fighters that can still hit hard inside, still hit in the pocket, but it's just something different about staying in that pocket. And I take pride in myself. That's my style, to just kind of like be in there, be in the chaos, receive shots and give shots as well. But like you said, it goes all down to the jab. Something as simple as a jab can knock you down, knock you out, and bare knuckle, and most importantly, cut you open. You get cut. I've had more cuts in my bare knuckle career than I've had in my MMA career. And granted, MMA was a little bit longer. I've had 26 MMA professional fights, and I'm at like 12 now for bare knuckle, but I'm like easily surpassed the cuts by pretty significantly quick. Yeah.
The cuts. Talk to me about that. Do they hurt? Like, does it actually? Because some people are like, "Oh, your adrenaline's going," so I don't imagine it would hurt. Talk to me about that, Mike. Because you like it was 2 fights ago, I think, when you got the forehead got split open. I can't remember. I think it was 2 fights ago. I can't remember off the top of my head. Yeah, you got cut pretty bad there, and so like it's got scar tissue there and stuff. Like, does it actually hurt, or can you even feel it in the fight?
You know what? I don't feel it in the fight. I can't speak for others. I think your adrenaline's just so high. The only time when you realize that you have a cut is obviously the blood starts coming in your eyes. And then the blood was coming heavily in my eyes, so that I could tell. I'm like, man, I think I got a couple of cuts on my head. You know what I mean? Because it felt like one was coming this and here, and I would have to wipe it out of my eyes. But as far as the cut pain, I can honestly say I didn't really feel the cut pain in the fight. It was just more of getting the blood out the eyes.
I gotcha. That's cool, man. Another thing I was going to ask you, Mike, I've been always wanted to ask you this, your body shots. You understand how to work the body pretty well, which is in bare knuckle. It seems like everyone's just always going for the knockout, which is kind of part of the entertainment factor, but you're really good at working the body. And I know you probably don't want to hear the Lorenzo Hunt go through that whole memory, but even in that fight, I mean, it was unbelievable just in the first minute and a half of working the body, and obviously this is a sport of fighting, you get caught sometimes, but like you were hitting him in the body, and that's just something you're really good at. Is that something you learn naturally, or like how do you, because you mentioned something earlier too, like when you're in close range, it's a little scary because those little shots can take it, but you do a really good job when you're in close range, you're hitting them to the body, which does leave you open a little bit too sometimes, but you're good at like hitting. So talk to me about the body work and where that's like been programmed to you, I guess.
For me personally, is I try to tell fighters, and you're starting to see fighters more and more. You got to commit. You got to commit to that body shot. When you know you want to go to the body, you got to commit. Don't pull your punch that like, oh, I need to recover and defend quickly. You want to really commit to those shots, whether you're going to the solar plexus or trying to hit the liver. And I like to go up and down, I like to go up and down. And what I realized, I heavily like to go to sparring, I heavily like to go to the body in sparring, and I really try to translate how I train is how I'm going to fight. And it's difficult to say that, right? Because you can't train bare knuckle. You're not bare knuckle sparring, right? You're wearing 16s, and I'll do small glove sparring, like MMA style with the 7 ounces, to get a little bit more feel of the close range realism. But I'm always trying to keep in that mind, go to the body, come up high, go low, or go low, and then come back up high. And I take pride in that. And what I'm starting to see more is now more fighters are getting it. At least in bare knuckle, more fighters are getting it, like, oh shit, a bare knuckle shot to the rib, hurts. A bare knuckle shot to the body hurts. One punch can be a damaging punch, whether it be a knockdown. Doesn't even have to be a knockdown. You know what I mean? That damaging punch can cause damage to that rib, damage to that body that will affect him later in that round, later in that fight. You're just kind of paying it forward. You're going to the body, whether you can put them down or not, and it's going to slow an opponent down, and it's going to make them think twice on what your next shot selection is going to be.
Yeah, I'm making them think twice. So a funny story there too is when I was fighting back in the early days, been 20 years since my last fight, but like when I was boxing, my first time when I was 16, Mike, I got hit to the body really, really hard in a sparring match.
Yeah.
And I was young. So like I'm what you just said, there's like you think twice. I literally like jumped and kicked up with my legs the next time he got close. And my coaches started laughing because I guess that's a common thing, but they're like, oh, he's scared of getting hit because I like jumped and tucked my legs up so it wouldn't get hit
Yeah.
because I was like nervous. It hurt so bad. Yeah, dude, and it'll take you out even if it's not if it doesn't knock you down. You're gonna be thinking about it. I think people don't know until they get hit to the body what
No.
it does to you, man. It's like woo, you
For
can't breathe. It hurts, and then it's just like, oh, dude, I don't want that again.
Yeah, you really fully comprehend or understand a body shot until you experience it on yourself, for sure. Because you'll hit people and you'll be like, "Damn, I don't." But now I've been in the game long enough, and I've done a lot. You know, I've done some good body work in training, but also, you know, in my fights, I know there's a certain shot where you can feel it when you land. You're like, "Oh yeah, that's the one." So yeah, I love doing the body work.
Oh, that's awesome, brother. So you've had the chance to fight at Knuckle Mania. You've had the chance to fight so in front of some big time numbers, 18,000 plus with millions streaming for bare knuckle, and you've had some big time championship bouts there. You've fought in the UFC. You've gotten a lot of fights. I would love to know like where's your favorite venue that you fought, and like how do you as a professional, Mike, been in the game for a long time? How do you compose yourself? It always has seemed to me that although it's an entertainment business and you have to promote the fight, you got to hype it up. Everybody knows there's an entertainment factor to it. Sometimes it's real, sometimes it's not. But like when it comes to the fight, you always kind of just seem like you're like level headed. It's just it's business once it's time for the fight. So I would just love to know like your thought process and how do you keep your nerves calm in those big venues and those big moments.
Yeah, you know, it took some time, you know, over the years, especially early in my MMA days. I definitely was more of the energetic, get really excited, and as I started to get more experience, you know, and be more level-headed, try to take on a different approach. I really try to take on like that Mike Tyson customato approach, and I've said it before where. You know, I don't overly show emotions or get excited after a victory or whatever. I don't really. I just try to be like you said, business as usual. And I know Mike Tyson said in an interview once where I think he was fighting in the amateurs and he knocked out a dude and he was like jumping up, celebrating. And Customato was like, "What are you jumping up? What are you celebrating? What are you jumping up and down for? You're acting surprised." By jumping up and down and celebrating, you're acting surprised in your victory. So I try to take that mindset. You know, I try to get in that zone, flip that switch, get in the mindset, especially, you know, on the walkout. You know, as much as I would love to dance and have fun, there's something I just get in the fucking kill mode and I'm like, all right, cool, it's business, let's go. And that's just kind of how I've always been.
So to that point, that I want to ask you kind of like your fight night ritual from the time you wake up and kind of what's your whole entire like routine, I guess. Like what does a day look like for Mike Richman when you're getting ready for a big fight? Bare knuckle fights coming up. You got it late at night, so you got to wait till later in the card and you got to like do your whole thing. What does it look like for you?
You're talking about from like the beginning of the morning.
Yeah, you wake up and then get to the whole process. What's a day in the life look like for you?
For sure, you know, the morning time, depending on how tired I am after, you know, rehydrating and eating and all those things, I try to sleep in at least 9 or 10 a.m. You know, I try to get some rest and sleep. Then I'll get up and then I'll link up with my boxing coach and we'll just kind of go hit mitts and kind of do what we call like a little blowout session where you kind of, you know, get the lungs to really kind of open up again. Because obviously you haven't done that. Me, I don't like to overly exert myself when I cut weight. You know, I'm not running and doing that. It's like I'll just grind it out in the sauna
Wow, okay.
So like I don't really like to exert energy while I'm cutting weight. So then that first little blowout session is like, all right, let's get the lungs rolling. Let's see how the body feels. You know, doing that. So I usually do that around 10:30, 11 a.m. Then try to grab something to eat after that. And then it's really, for me, I just like to just chill in my hotel room with my wife. We just chill in the room and watch TV or whatever. And we're literally just sit there and relax kind of for hours. Now, depending on the venue that we're fighting in, for example, when I fought in Hollywood, Florida, I love it out there. So like the day of the fight, I'm cruising up and down the boardwalk, you're by the beach, you kind of cruise around and enjoy the day that way. But depends on, like I said, depends on the venue. We were in the last show that we were just at was in Philly. It was cold as shit out. So I'm like, I'll just chill in the room for hours. And then we'll get ready to head to the venue. Now, obviously being the main event fighter, which I've done many times, then I'm getting to the venue slightly later than everyone else. The first fighters get there, and then I get to the venue, and then I'll get back to my room. And I normally, if they don't have a screen in the room for us to watch the fights live in action, I'll put my phone on, and I'll just watch the fights from my phone in the back and just lay down and relax and chill and just watch the fights, get an idea of where we're at. As we get closer towards the end of the card, then we'll hit a certain level, like, all right, cool, let's wrap the wrist and the thumb up. So then we'll do the hand wraps, and then we'll start warming up. We'll do some couple of little mid sessions, kind of get loose again, and then just kind of stay warm as we get closer and closer. For me, everyone feels nerves, and I've been in some fights where you don't feel no nerves, you don't feel no edge, but my nerves don't really kick in until about, not even in the back, I would say when I'm on deck. Maybe in the hole, I can start to feel when you're in the hole, when you're in the back, and then there's someone on deck behind the curtain and the fight's going on. But I really start to feel it when I move from in the hole position to on deck, where you're like you're going to be the next fight up behind the curtain. Then you start feeling it, and now you're like, all right, cool, let's control the chaos, control the feelings, and get in there and do business. And I've had fights in the past where I didn't have any nerves in MMA, and I just didn't have the edge. Like, I wasn't nervous or scared, and then I ended up losing the decision. So I think nerves is very important. I think having the nerves is good. Just controlling it is the most important thing. And then, then you get ready. Then the fight ends, and you do your best. You're behind the curtain, so every time you see a fight going on, at least in BKFC, I'm sure Bellator is very similar to that as well. In UFC, I imagine they're just the same. There's a big curtain in the screen. There's a fight going on in the ring. The two fighters that are going next are literally, you're just back there waiting. You're waiting, kind of pacing. You're focused on the fight, moments of what you're going to do, but you're also like, all right, where are they at in the fight? But then if they get knocked, I've had some fights where the co-main event gets beat right away. It's a knockout. You're like, oh shit, that was
it's game time now.
Like, it's go time now. And then then they do the whole like pre-fight promo kind of stuff, play your videos, all that shit, and you're getting close, and then boom, you're getting ready to make that walk, and then you're making that walk, and then it's like, all right, it's game time. And then you just got to know how to control that. The second you get to the ropes, second you step to the ropes, it's go time.
So that's it. I love hearing that, because as athletes, and there's a lot of them that listen to my podcast, whether they're boxers or not, like they could be fighters, they could be football players and basketball players, there's nerves. And I always tell them, like, the fighting game brought me the most nerves ever, but it also taught me how to control them. So I had my own ways of controlling my nerves.
Right.
Breathing. I had a breathing routine that I'd go through. It allowed me to stay controlled. Cause like, if you don't, in fighting, if you just lock up, like, that's the worst thing you can do, because then you're not breathing while you're swinging punches, and all of a sudden you're worn out a minute into it, and all your training just goes out the window, and you're like, oh, what did I train for like 8 weeks, And so I teach these athletes that I coach for basketball and stuff, like, there's a breathing routine to but you mentioned controlling the chaos. Mike, could you give us some like insights as to how you control your nerves? Because you go out there, you've obviously performed, and you know how to perform even with nerves. So what is something that you do to try to do that? Like, did you listen to music? Do you breathe a certain way? Do you do a breathing routine? What do you do?
That's a good question. I don't know. I do the like self-affirmations. I do that. You can even see me on certain times when I walk out on camera. I've definitely done that more during my bare-knuckle career. And a good friend of mine, Rose Namajunas, she's a big advocate of the self-affirmations. I'm the best. I'm the fucking best. I'm the champ. I can't be beat. I'll do that as I'm walking out. As I'm walking out, cameras on. If you see my lips moving, I'm talking to myself, reminding myself that I'm the best. Like I can't be beat. I'm gonna win. I think that does help. I think anything that get your mind focused on the task at hand, you just kind of get dialed in on, all right, cool, I'm the best. And you're not worried about the 18,000 people that are seeing you screaming while you're coming in, the hot lights, the cameras, and everything else. You just get more zoned into the moment. And that helps me. Yeah, that helps me.
I love that, dude. Self-affirmations, man. That's so cool. That's awesome. You mentioned, okay, so you fought in Florida, you fought in Philly, you fought in many different venues. What's your favorite venue you fought in? Is it in Florida just because of the lifestyle outside of it, or what's your favorite venue you've been in?
Man, I would say the coolest venue that I've been in would probably be to fight in would be the Xfinity Mobile Arena, what I just fought in, because it was probably the biggest crowd setting I've ever fought in. I fought when Knucklemania 3, there was a shit ton of people in the run zone I had for that one. This one was a bunch of people. It was 18,000, great big venue. Obviously it's where the Sixers and the Flyers play. So it's a cool little arena, perfect fight arena. Hollywood, Florida is really fun. I would say overall as venue plus where you're at and relaxing, I would say Hollywood, Florida is probably my favorite all around. But an actual venue, yeah, I really enjoyed this venue. I can't remember the name of it. When I fought Nam Fan in Bellator, it was in San Diego. And that was a really cool venue, and that was a really cool entrance scene that they had set up. That was kind of dope. That was a really dope venue to fight in that one. Long Beach was really fun in California. Yeah, that's a tough one. Definitely the sunny states.
Yeah. It sounds like you like the sunny ones, dude. That's dope. It's cool to me that like sports and like fighting have taken you around different places. I mean, you're talking Florida, San Diego, Philly, and then there's many other places, but it's taking you around a couple places. So you get to explore just because of the sport in which you compete in. I think that's really, really cool. So one of the things I did want to ask you, I had it on my list of questions. This is a thing for all athletes, and I'm coming out with a merch line for my own brand, and it's the Unbreakable series. And basically what I'm trying to share with athletes and just men in general and just businessmen is that like you go through adversity, you're going to be battle tested. You get cracked a couple of times, but you're still standing, and it's okay. Like you can lose and you can still stand, later on. In the fight game, literally, you've gone through wins, you've gone through losses. You've had big fights at big moments where you got knocked out, and then you still came back and fought later. So I want to share that because some people talk about it, but not as many people are about it. You know what I mean? Where they can actually prove they can get back up and go back to training and actually commit themselves to another fight and put themselves and be vulnerable again. How did you do that? Like, how did you come back from losses? Like, what are the losses? I want to know like how you do that so the athletes can hear about that.
Coming back from the L's is always tough, and depending on the level of L that you took. I've lost close decision fights or split decisions, and you're like, like I should have won. But coming back from the the knockout loss, the biggest difficulty for me was not just coming back from the Lorenzo loss, because I had the bare-knuckle world at my fingertips, and I came back too quickly after I lost to Lorenzo with that knockout, and then because then they offered me a title fight to drop to Mundell, so then like I wasn't physically and mentally ready yet. I didn't even spar that really training camp for Dave Mundell, because I was in my head. That was my first time ever being knocked out, first time ever being knocked unconscious and sparring, training, wherever in a fight. So now I'm like, damn, am I one of those fighters that like, is my chin cracked now? Like, am I one of those fighters like Chuck Liddell when he lost his chin and, like a strong gust of wind's going to knock me out? Like I had those feelings in my moment in my head. And then it was down to 175, and then I was chasing the scale because I was getting big to stay at 185, and I'm like, I need to start, if I do want to come back down, I need to start trimming down. But then mentally, physically, I wasn't really in the right mindset. Then they're like, hey, Mike, fight for the title. And I'm like, I'm not going to turn it down. I'm like, hell yeah, let's do it. So then we fought Mondell, and I went in there and I fought Mondell, and I'm not on my game, not at all. And he's a great fighter. And then I lost that fight, TKO. He knocked me down like 3 or 4 times. And I was just kind of a shell of myself. So after the Mondell fight, that's when I was like, fucking made a retirement post, like wasn't even fucking home in the hotel room. Like I was just like, my mind was fucked. And that's when obviously I thought I was done. And I just took some time home to reflect. Didn't even think that I was going to get back in the game. I'm like, all right, cool. I had a good fight career, had a good run. Won the interim title, lost some other title fights. And then over time, I went back to the gym and I'm moving around and watching other fights on TV. And you're like, man, I still fucking got this, man. I know I'm good, dude. I know I'm still good. I'm still quick. I'm still this. I'm still that. Then you got to kind of get back into training. You get the little training wheels on. You start crawling and you're building yourself back up mentally and physically. And then you go to your first sparring sessions with the team and you're like, oh man, like I can still do this, dude. I still got the juice. And then you just, that's when I was starting to build my mind mentally, and then physically I still felt good. And then it was like, I don't know, it was a 9-month layoff or whatever. I'm like, nah, man. I hit them. I'm like, no, I'm not done. Get me back in there. And then I was just in a better place to come back. And then to rally back, had that one fight against Lozano to get me to face Warren, to win the title from Warren. That was, it was for me. It was just time, time to reflect, to get my mental state clear, but also to make me remember again, just like those self affirmations, like I'm still the fucking man, I'm still the champ, I'm still the best. And then you just build on that, and I was ready to rock again.
You know why that's so cool for me, Mike, is because I had just talked about this about a month and a half ago about self-doubt and how athletics can teach us some stuff there. But like even in the business world, in my full-time work that I do as a marketing director, there was some stuff at a company I was working for, and I had forgotten who I was. I'd forgotten my environment. I allowed my environment to kind of make me think that I didn't know what I was doing anymore. I'm like, I've been doing this for 15 years. And like, you just go through self-doubt, and kind of what you explained right there was similar to what I did in the business world. Is like, you had to take some time to self-reflect. You sit back, and then over some time of like self-reflection, all of a sudden you're like, no, I do know what I'm doing. I'm actually pretty good at this.
Right.
Okay, let's get back to work. And I appreciate you sharing that, because I was just like naturally just kind of went into what I had talked about a month ago. So I think that's really important for athletes, that even a champ like yourself, somebody who's been at that level, at a very high level, can experience some of those mental lapses and those self-doubt moments. And it might not be immediate that you get right back at it, but like you can still come back from it. And so it's important for people to see the vulnerable side, but also see that it does take time, but you can come back. And now you're back to competing at a high level. What do you think the future holds for you, Mike? Do you have a certain goal of like, in your mind, are you thinking X amount of years, X amount of fights? Like, what's your plan?
You know what? That's a great question. My wife wants to know that too.
Yeah, sure.
I was like, no, it's time, babe. It's time to retire. Just retire. And you know what? I was telling myself, obviously, when I got back, head clear, everything is good, ready to rock. Right now, I'm in a state, if I physically, my body, if I feel like I can still get in there and train hard and train at a high level, and my body's not breaking down for the preparation, I'm like, okay, that's check number one. Like, all right, that's one thing. And then if I can compete with the high upper echelon class of fighters still compete for a world title, still compete for number one contenders, all at a high level. All right, that's checkbox. I'm two. I want to be able to do that. I don't want to just fight just to fight, so if it ever got to the place where, I'm losing to people that I shouldn't lose to, or I'm not doing well, like I need to have an honest reflection with that. But we'll see. Sorry, my dogs are playing on the dang.
You're good, man.
I don't know. It's more of a feel body thing. Mentally, like I said, I'm really good right now. And I think it's more of a physical. Yeah. I think the most important thing is the preparation, Because like if I can't get in there and grind and train anymore, that's when I have to be, honest with myself. But just being honest with yourself, being able to tell yourself the hard truth, like it's over, Mike. Just walk away. It's over. I don't want to be the fighter that stays and stays and stays. So that's why I'm always trying to like keep getting back up, keep winning, keep doing all that. I don't know. It's a feeling right now, and that's my wife. My wife hates it because I'm not sure, babe. I don't want to put a number on it because ideally it was like, all right, I'll do 40 or I'll do 45 or like, no, all fighters are fighting older now. I'm just like, no, let me just see how the body feels and how the body and mind handle it.
Sure, man. That's awesome, though. I only had a couple questions left for you to respect your time. One of the things I wanted to know was kind of in the intricacies of fighting. I always talk to people about like boxing, and why I loved boxing was because there was angles. You were fighting in a square ring, right? And so you learned angles and footwork. And there were fighters like me who weren't very quick, but I'm 6'2", and I had length, so I could work my jab. But as long as I just moved very subtly, I could cut off an angle, and all of a sudden I've got the whole ring. But then I was talking about like how like the octagon in the UFC is different, right? Because it's a different angle. It's an octagon. There's not four corners. And then in the BKFC, it's a circle, right? So I want to know if like maybe I'm just overanalyzing it, which happens sometimes. But like for you, who's been in multiple different styles of fighting, do you find a difference in the BKFC with like angles at all, or is it so small that you guys don't even realize it because you're just going to battle and you just start swinging?
I think it's depending on the size of the ring, because I know BKFC, they do have a smaller ring for like smaller venue shows, like a smaller circle ring, still a circle. Now their ring posts are like like they're not like, you can't roll, you can't slip and roll on those ropes. They're like metal bars padded up. So there's really no rolling. It's you're coming up against a cage or a wall. That's it's a stiff foundation. But there's still opportunity to cut people off. Maybe not as easily as you can in a boxing ring, but there's still angles to be made. And if you're a good pressure fighter that knows how to cut off and kind of stay in someone, you can do those things. But it is a big ring. But you can still get someone to get into action. You can still cut them off. And Bellator was a circular cage, so it's similar to the Bellator cage. And then obviously the octagon is, they have the little angles there too as well. The one thing I will say the difference between would be BKFC and that the BKB, the Trigon ring. Now that's wild. But
yeah.
That's wild. That's got a lot of action in there. Good on them, I guess. I'm all for the action, but it looks like their ropes kind of looks like you can lean and bend on their ropes, but they're in the little triangle getting after it.
Yeah, the trigon. I mean, good for you if you can get on the ropes, but you ain't got no space there anyway on the trigon thing. Yeah, that's crazy. BKB's got some. That's wild. You got to just go in there and be expecting to throw. Like I don't even know, man. That's a whole different style.
You can tell that they know that their shows are just nonstop, like right to the freaking action, because they have they'll put 13 fights because you can't keep taking that many breaks because you're going to battle.
No, for sure. As a businessman like yourself, I mean, obviously there's stuff I've seen you post about stuff like work and everything outside of fighting, right? There's a life outside of fighting. I want to know what the biggest life lesson you've taken away from the sport of fighting over all these years that you can directly translate into your full-time work or your other work that's outside of fighting. Like, what's the biggest lesson that you can take from athletics into that world?
I think like what we talked about earlier, it's never over. You can always, like you said, you just talked about it yourself in the business aspect of things is, reminding yourself, dusting yourself off, getting up, self-reflection and all that, and being able to be like, all right, cool. I'm going to be even better. I'm going to be even better. I'm going to do that. And I think what I can do in the fight arena, as far as getting yourself back up again, same thing I can do with my family, with my wife, my marriage, my kids, my work, I work outside of fighting, all those things you can keep, improving and getting better at. And that'd be something that translate for sure.
Right on. And then last question I got for you, Mike, is if there's others out there that are aspiring to go into the fight game, what would be your biggest piece of advice for them?
Piece of advice for like a brand new, say the question one more time.
Yeah, if there's an aspiring fighter, somebody who wants to fight, whether they're brand new into like boxing or whatever, and they're like, hey, I'm watching, they like mixed martial arts or they like the BKFC, they're looking at this and they're like, hey, I want to kind of get into this. But what would you advise them on? Like as far as where should you start before you get yourself to like good, bad, indifferent? Like what's your biggest piece of advice for somebody that's like new into the game and aspires to get to a higher level?
I would say the biggest thing is obviously going to a nice gym and a team and believing in your team, believing in your trainers, believing in your coaches. Don't, those are important. Those are important because I know what it's like to be a young kid and be like, no, I want to do this. No, I want to do that. When I got out of the Marine Corps, it's just, I wasn't even 23 yet. Got out of the Marine Corps January of 2008, and I had my very first professional fight in April of 2008.
Oh, wow.
In hindsight, I didn't do no AMIs. I didn't do I know to wrestle and box, but I didn't really put in the amount of work and time that I should have put in to prepare for, let alone my first prize fight. Things worked out, good training, whatever, right opponent, all that, but it could have went a number of different ways for me. My MMA career could have started off horribly. You could fought the wrong guy, whatever, but take time, take time, have patience, and listen to your coaching staff. If they're not doing it because they don't want you to be a star. They're not telling you, hey, now you need to fix this because they don't want you. You're at their gym. They want you to be a representation of them as well. So like, just believe in your team, believe in your coaches, be patient because the time you just keep putting in the work, the time will come. Don't rush yourself. Don't do stupid like I did, just jumping right in like, let's start fighting pro now. I want to fight now. Be patient. Believe your team.
I love that, man. I appreciate it. And I appreciate the interview, Mike. I really do appreciate you taking the time, and I'm glad that we can make that happen. And so we'll be rooting for you, man, for however long that is. We'll see kind of what the vibe, like you said, the feel that you have moving forward. If you decide to continue fighting, obviously, we'll be rooting for you. You got a fan in me. And so just really appreciate you taking the time. And if you ever need anything from me, let me know. All right, brother?
Yeah, brother. I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Thank you so much. For all those who are listening, hit that subscribe button. We'll be coming to you next week with another interview. Take care. Guys, thanks so much for listening to another episode of my show. Now, if you could go and do me a favor, head over to iTunes, give me 5 stars, and leave me a review. It would be greatly appreciated. Thanks, guys. Appreciate your support.